Well, we're back here at the Jack Rose Dining Saloon, and I'm really excited for this next segment. We're talking about creating creative beverage programs to go. And the idea behind this is obviously most states and cities around the country have allowed us to have cocktail programs that can leave the bar now. Before, there's always most places you cannot do that, but as a lifeline that many people took advantage of, is they created really exciting beverage programs. And this next guest created one that made national headlines. And so I'm joined by the beverage director for Capo Speakeasy. His name is Rohit Malhotra. And we're really excited to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So let's dive right in. It's March. Give the lay of the land of how your place is and how it just wasn't built for social distancing and not a typical restaurant that could stay open, unlike some other places.
So essentially, we're a speakeasy behind an Italian deli, and at some point in middle of March, the entire bar and restaurant industry was shut down. Luckily, the city took the lead from New York and implemented a to-go program.
You guys had to come up with a couple cocktails, and the first program, the to-go program, wasn't actually the one that made you guys social media famous. It was actually a few of the experimentations leading up to that. So what was those first iterations like, and what did you create?
So the first iteration was our own cocktail menu. We're generally fairly popular, and I thought that would translate somewhat into to-go sales. It obviously didn't at the beginning. So we implemented our own cocktail program, the cocktail program that we're already running, and it did okay, but it didn't shatter any records or wasn't producing the revenue that we wanted to see out of it. So we decided that we needed to come up with a theme. We went with the quarantine theme.
Mm-hmm.
Quarantine theme, first drink that we did was the Tiger King.
Of course.
Started doing one called the Zoom Party and so on. And at that point, we decided we were playing around. We got some pouches in, and we were trying to play around with wordplay, and we're playing around, said pouch, pouchy, Fauci, pouchy, and went with it.
Boom, the Fauci Pouchy was born. Yeah. So I think we have some today. If you want to kind of bring those out, and a couple different flavors here, right?
Yep, that was our first one. That was a vodka mint lemonade with elderflower. That was actually a story of actually turning lemons into lemonade, where we had excess citrus stock, and the boys in the deli made a mint lemonade. I tried it, it was delicious, and I said, you know what, make this a little bit better? Vodka and elderflower.
Yeah.
And the first Fauci Pouchy was born.
So boom, the Fauci Pouchy is born, and I think you have a few of them here today. We're going to take a look at some of the flavors you got.
This was the first one. We call it the original. It was literally turning lemons into lemonade when we had excess citrus stock, and the team in the deli basically made a mint lemonade out of it. I tried it, it was delicious, and said the only thing I could think that would make this better would be vodka and elderflower. And the first Fauci Pouchy was born.
So how long did it take to get caught on to social media and the press to get involved to really make it take off?
So it took about a week and a half to 2 weeks to get really going. We sold out our first batch in the weekend, but it made a little bit of a splash. But then once it got on Instagram, Eater picked it up, the Washingtonian picked it up right after that, and one day I get a call from NBC, and next thing you know, we're off to the races.
So describe that. So you came up with the Fauci Pouchy, which the name probably you're like, brilliant, this is going to be amazing, but it takes a little time to catch off. And I think a lot of times bar owners and operators think, great idea, implement it for 3, maybe 5 days, and sometimes a little less patience, and then they kick an idea to the curb too early. Did you guys have faith that this was going to be big the whole time leading up to that 2-week incubation period?
I personally believed it had the ability to go big. We have just never coveted the press like that, nor has the press paid us that much attention. So getting this out there was definitely difficult. But what I would say is stick by your guns. If you think you have a good idea and it is feasible and it makes sense, go with it.
Yeah, that tastes delicious. So walk through some new skill sets you're building. I want to get into the press and going viral, but before we get there, how was your skill set of understanding cocktails to go and shelf life? Were you doing a lot of research? Was your team also jumping in and saying, is this good for a day or two? Like, was there any kind of questions there, or really how to build this program out?
There was some questions there. There was a question of how do we keep this to stay? Because at the beginning, we weren't moving the cocktails as fast as we wanted to. So it was like, okay, well, what are the shelf life characteristics that we can do? We can't use anything carbonated at the beginning, and so, not for the pouch at least. So we had to figure it out. It's like, well, how do we stabilize the cocktail? So you have to do some reach into that. It's also scaling up your cocktails, because essentially when you come into the bar, I make you a cocktail right in front of you. It is now we have to scale this program. So how do we do this in a way that we can keep quality controls? How do we do it so we can scale it up and still be able to move it and keep the kind of quality that we want to? So that did take some research and it took some time, and until we did catch on, and then we're again off to the races.
Yeah, and so that day I remember you told me you got the phone call. They actually wanted you to be on NBC, didn't they? And you politely declined?
Well, I've never really done press before, and so it wasn't really my strong point. Also, they had called, we're in the middle of a quarantine.
Yeah.
I don't think I probably was looking my best that day. I hadn't shaved, probably had a backwards hat on, and I was probably just in prepping all day. So I definitely was not TV ready.
Yeah, but you knew it was going to air at 6, and then describe what your machine started doing as soon as that started airing.
So the interview comes on about 6 or 6:30, about 6:30 actually. And as soon as that happened, about 10 seconds later, we got a ding on one of our partner tablets to say that there was an order. I was like, oh, great, 10 seconds. That was awesome. Next thing you know, all of them start ding, 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 ding. We get our dinner rush right at that point. We get rocked. There's no other way around it. And we sell out of all our bread and all of our Fauci pouches in an hour.
Wow.
At that point, we sat down and we were running a skeleton crew just to make sure that everyone could stay employed and get the hours that they needed. And we decided that we needed to stock back up. So we brought on full 4 people after that, and we started hiring people as well.
So you guys were hiring in a pandemic. Well, most bars in your speakeasy, which is completely shut down in the back, you guys are hiring because you had a creative idea and ran with it.
Yes.
So it sounds like your team was on board and they were happy to be working again and kind of the family was back, right?
Agreed. Yeah. It gave us some sense of normalcy and the excitement in a time that's not so exciting.
Yeah. And I think another big adjustment is a lot of staff are used to being behind the bar and the energy and the crowd and talking with people. Now they're in the back, batching cocktails. Was that an adjustment for some people? Or were they more happy to just be at work and be together?
It was definitely an adjustment. I mean, I think a lot of bartenders thrive off that human interaction, what makes us bartenders. But essentially, we became prep cooks. But I think there was a lot of fun trying to figure out how to scale these things up. And it was also, I think people really enjoy learning. And
yeah.
So we were trying to learn new things and try to improvise to the times.
And I'm sure there was quite a lot of buzz, and they were probably pretty excited to be working on this, because I imagine, how quickly does someone Instagram this after they buy it?
Generally between 5 seconds and a minute.
And as you can see for branding, and we'll probably do some close-up shots of this, but the Capo Speakeasy with the Instagram tag, so instantly it marks the business. Don't forget to tag us, which I'm sure has helped grow your social media following quite a bit.
Our Instagram, I believe, has gone up about, I would say, at least 250%.
That's awesome. That's great, because after this is over, these brands that we're interacting with is the places we're probably going to start trying to go to. So this is March, correct?
Yes.
So March goes through. DC starts to slowly reopen. A few weeks, a couple months later, really, the novelty might be wearing off. So you guys weren't done with just this. So what was next, and how did you kind of continue to be creative?
Well, after we did the original, we came up with a couple more different flavors. We did passion fruit margarita, a strawberry lemonade with gin. We did a bourbon sweet tea. So we started diversifying our flavors as well, just because it was so popular, and just started putting them all under the Fauci Pouchy umbrella. We also did a couple of one-offs. So like when Fauci threw out the first pitch at the Nationals game, we did the first pitch Fauci. When there was a lot of attention being given to what was going on with the USPS, we did the You've Got Mail Fauci. And with that, with every purchase, you got a pre-stamped Fauci postcard that would be sent out.
That's awesome. I mean, that's how you kind of get people engaged. You stay relevant, because it's, as any fad goes, the novelty starts to wear off a little bit. It sounds like you guys kind of kept being creative. So describe that process. Was it, again, a team and collaborative effort? Because I think some owners operators are like, well, we could never come up with that. And the problem is usually it's one person trying to be this creative, sense of it all. So I think what you all had is a lot of people were sourcing through this. You yourself were reaching out to friends and family, trying to come up with ideas. And I mean, how do you attack this creatively? Because that's what helps sell this is a lot, is how creative it is.
It is. I think it's like anything. It's like a bar team. Like you have people play to their strengths. So my side is the creative side, where my GM side is the number side, and he has the organizational skills to put all of this together. So, in the costing side. So you have people in their roles. So not everyone has to be creative. So if you don't have the creative instinct, I would definitely say lean on part of your team that does. If you don't have the numerical instinct, then lean on the part of your team that does, or find somebody that does. You're going to need all of these components. This part is only one facet of what you see is only one facet of this. You need to be well-rounded. You need to be very fluid, particularly during these times. And that helped us tremendously.
Absolutely. And you guys have been fluid. When this airs, the election will be over, but at this time, it's still upcoming, and the presidential debate happened, the VP debate happened, and so you guys continue to keep the creative juices flowing and release even more flavors.
So for the VP debates, we did the Pina Colada versus the Mike Penicillin. This is obviously a Pina Colada variant, and this is a penicillin. And after the fly landed on his head, we put a warning label on the back of this that says, "Be careful, you might get buzzed. So please drink responsibly." Also with QR codes for voting resources, and again, our Instagram tag. I cannot tell you the importance of the social media aspect of this as well, just because whenever we launch a new product now, it's so much easier to get in front of the public and have a better launch. As the run-up for the Fauci Pouch, it took a couple weeks. If we had that Instagram following from the beginning, who knows what we would have done and how fast we could have done it. So definitely say put some effort into there. After that, these were fairly successful, so we did a presidential one. So we did a Trumpkin Spice Latte versus the Joe and Biden. These are more fall flavored. So this is obviously a pumpkin spice latte a play off the major coffee brand that does that. And then this was a cider cocktail.
Now, some people might stay away from it because of the politics, but you guys are smart because you have both sides. And what you found is people would buy more of the one they have a favor to. So you're actually doubling and tripling sales in some cases, right?
So it helped tremendously. Basically, what you'll see is DC, even though it does vote 90% Democrat for the most part, you have people from all walks of life that work on the Hill, that work on the White House, etc. And so we're seeing sales on both sides. Plus, during the debates, people would buy both just so they could have a better Instagram. Whether they support both or not, obviously you can. So they would buy both just to show, honestly, probably for a better Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you also got smarter too, because as we were talking about, I mean, this costs money, right? And so that's what most people think about too. What is, the beverage cost? How did you approach it? And how did you continue to take down your variable costs associated with these pouches over time? Because I think there was some optimization there, right?
There definitely was. So at the beginning, we just depleted the inventory that we already had. And once we started depleting all of that and the Fauci Pouch really started catching on, luckily we went to the distributors and they had a lot of closeouts. So we started basing our cocktails off what the closeouts were. So if they had an excess of cucumber vodka, we would go with that. If they had an excess of a certain type of scotch, then, we would go with that, or mezcal, or what have you. And so we would base the cocktails off of those and work around that. That way we could reduce our costs and keep these within a price point that was still very approachable for the guests and reduce our costs enough that it still made it profitable for us.
Yeah.
As for the bags, at first we started sourcing from Amazon. Everyone started doing a pouch, and so that was a lot harder to come by, and the pouch cost went up tremendously. So we started resourcing this. So we went straight to the supplier in China and started getting bags sent to us through that.
How many bags came directly from China, and what was the turnaround time? Were you guys waiting, or was it still pretty quick?
So this is another thing that you have to learn. So we had to factor in, well, do we get this air shipped, or do we get it shipped by sea, and how much is the cost there? So we essentially decided how many we needed. We had half shipped, and then by air, and then half done by sea. Yeah. Just so the bigger problem is if we ran out of bags, that's our business. Yeah. So we had to get a certain amount in. So we calculated our burn rate, how much it was going up every week, and then made an educated guess, and it worked out for us.
Well, this is great. I think a lot of people, again, are thinking about this Q4. It's usually booked with holiday parties, and people are gathering. This could be still a big seller for families. So when they get together and kind of have a laugh, what are you thinking about in terms of like holiday themed cocktail programs, and what's your advice for other bars and restaurants that are thinking about this and not really sure where to start?
So I think one, you have to identify your market. In DC, it's very politically charged, so we went with these. And within another market, you will have to, you know your guests, they come and see you. So figure out what they like, see what they would attach to. Give them some sense of normalcy so that they have a fun drink to look at during a Zoom call. Give them something that they can relate with their family to. Maybe, if it's possible, maybe figure out a way to have them send it to your family so you have something to bond over, even if it's just a Zoom call.
So as we kind of look towards the future, some people are very nervous about, winter is coming and this, this upcoming season where it's going to be much colder, so outdoor dining is going away. What's your outlook for hospitality and what are you kind of hoping for? I think you've kind of mentioned a few things as we've spoken about, sticking together, but what's your outlook right now as you see it?
For better or worse, it's been warm for most of COVID. Now that it's getting into the cold months, people have to adapt and figure out how to utilize their outdoor spaces the best, how they can pivot to more delivery and more online sales, and figure out different sources of revenue that they can make. It is imperative that as many restaurants as possible survive for when we get out of this. Business will beget business, and the rising tide raises all ships.
Well said. Well, Rohit, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks
it's
for having
awesome
me.
to hear the story of Capo and what you guys have built there. Wishing you all the success over this next few seasons.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
If anyone has any questions, obviously they can email me at any point. We can put that out there if needed.
Yeah. What's your Instagram handle real quick so people can hit you there?
Just at Slowhit, SLOWHIT.
That makes it easy. So that is our beverage program with the Fauci Pouchy. So we really appreciate the time of the Capo Speakeasy team and Rohit coming down here to explain it. If you have not created a unique beverage program, hit him up on Instagram. He shared his account. You also find him at Capo Speakeasy right there. This is the things you need to do to find another source of revenue. And if you can take advantage of great free press, do that, and then be smarter as they were doing and continue to improve on that. So with that, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll see you in a little bit.